Hey, what's up? My name is Daniel Miesler, and I'm super excited to share with you a new AI project I've just created called Fabric. So the basic idea of Fabric is to start with human problems. Ever since the beginning of 2023, we've had a million pieces of AI flying around. We've had apps, we have ChatGPT, we have mobile apps now, we have voice applications, and most of all, we have a million different prompts. And the question is, how do we actually use all this stuff? And that's the challenge I had for myself in the beginning of last year. So what I started doing was thinking from the top down, from a human perspective. What do I actually want to do with AI? And what do I think other people should be doing with AI as well? And what that did was brought me to a human-focused approach to AI. And what that means is I'm thinking first, what are we trying to do at a human level with technology and specifically AI? And how do we categorize that and sort of capture it? So this is essentially me here. I like to read, I like to listen to things, I like to watch things, discuss them, think. These are my inputs. And ultimately what I'm trying to do is become better at doing all these things, but more importantly, applying them into something that matters in my life, which is making better decisions. That's ultimately what I'm trying to do here at step 5. So consuming all this stuff at layer 1 gets me new ideas at layer 2, which allows me to update my model of the world at layer 3, which can update my algorithms for how I actually do specific tasks at layer 4, and ultimately result in better decision making. So this is ultimately what I'm trying to actually accomplish in my life using technology, including AI. So I'm starting with that as the focus. The next thing I did was start to think of everything in terms of challenges. So once again, we're at the human level here. We're not doing tech for the sake of doing tech. We're not doing AI for the sake of doing AI. We're thinking about what are we actually trying to do on a day-to-day basis in terms of problems we're trying to solve, challenges we're trying to overcome. And for me, I've got a list here, right? So I don't talk to my friends enough. Okay, let's say that's a problem, which it is sometimes. There's too much damn content. I don't have time to read or watch, multiple super long form podcasts, read super long essays, especially if I can't tell right off the bat if they're really good or not. So these are all problems, right? Even if the content is good, I don't have time to get to it. When I watch it, I might not remember the stuff because I don't have the time to take the notes and come back to the notes and that sort of thing. I can't watch all the bounties and the scopes. So let's say I'm doing security testing. I can't look at all the different programs I could possibly be testing. I don't have time to go kick off automation all the time. I don't have the time to figure out what's in an academic paper. If someone sends me a contract, do I have time to read it all the way through and look for the gotchas? These are all problems that I run into on a daily basis. So I sort of think of those as my challenges. Then over here on the right, I'm looking at how can I turn those into components, right? How do I turn those into discrete objects that I can then apply AI to? And that brings us to the project itself, which is called Fabric, as we talked about. And it is on github.com/danielmiesler/fabric. Got the logo here, got the mission, human flourishing via AI augmentation. And it's an open source framework for augmenting humans using AI. So the first thing to talk about here is just the structure of it. So the entire project is themed off of the concept of fabrics or blankets or, patterns, that kind of thing. So essentially you have the project itself, which is called Fabric, the optional server that you could set up to run this thing independently yourself. This is optional. You don't have to do that, but it's called a mill. The patterns themselves, the individual little blocks of AI that apply to specific problems, those are called patterns, and they're all otherwise known as prompts. So you could just think of those as the prompts. Those are called patterns. If you link multiple patterns together, those are called stitches, and looms are client-side apps, which you don't actually have to use anymore, but they're there and they're all part of that naming structure. Okay, going back into the top and navigating the files here, we're going to go into patterns. And this is where you see the core content of the project. There's lots of stuff going on here. You don't really need to worry about too much of it. We're going to talk about installation a little bit later, but this is the main content. Analyze claims. This is like analyzing somebody making a claim online that so-and-so is true or so-and-so is not true. This analyzes claims and gives you like supporting evidence and counter evidence. Analyze incidents. This is for security. Analyze a paper. This looks at an academic paper and tells you how good it is. Analyze prose. This will actually rate the quality of writing, your own writing, anyone's writing. Looking at a spiritual text. Checking an agreement to see if anyone's trying to screw you over. Cleaning up text if it's got special characters in it, or it's garbage, or it's got like really weird delimiters. Create aphorisms, create a logo, create an NPC for a role-playing game. And if you go inside of any of these here, what you see is a system prompt. And this system prompt is the thing that matters. This is the content of a pattern. This is a markdown file. And this markdown file defines exactly what the prompt does, what the AI does to address this specific problem. So this one is about extracting article wisdom. So this is specifically for when you have an article, it's a political article, it's talking about a security thing, or it's just some kind of human story, whatever it is. You want to know what the main ideas are. You want to know what the main takeaways are, the things you should pay attention to. And so we have an identity and purpose where we tell the AI like who it is, how to think of itself, and what its mission is in this particular piece of AI. Then we tell it the steps to follow to actually do the AI task. And then we tell it exactly how to output. And then the input comes behind it, and that's what you're going to send in from the article. And that results in the output, which we're going to talk about when we go into examples. But this is an example of one pattern. And again, we've got dozens in here, and we just keep adding to them. So those are the patterns. Okay, so one more example of a pattern before we jump into actually using it and showing the examples dynamically. This one is called Analyze Prose, and it does a few things. It looks at the novelty of something. It looks at, going down here, the clarity of the writing. And it also looks at the prose in the writing. So it's essentially how clear is it? How creative is it? How like vibrant and interesting is the language? And most importantly, in my opinion at least, is how surprising is the content? How new are the ideas? And you end up with 3 different scores that come out of this, and we'll show this in an example here coming up soon. The most important thing to think about though, when you're looking at this, when you're looking at any of these are all open source. I'm clicking back into the patterns. These are all open source, which means, and this has already happened to me, I put out most of these myself in the initial launch of the project, and that was a couple of weeks ago. And people have already submitted new patterns, updated patterns, their own versions of the patterns, and guess what? They improved on what I had. So I actually took their copy and swapped it over, and it became the authoritative new one that just moved mine to the side because theirs was better. And that's what's going to be so powerful about this project, is that it's open source, it's dynamic, and it benefits from everyone. It's a global project for augmenting people with AI. Okay, cool. So now let's jump in and let's actually look at some examples. So I've got this video here. I have loved this video for a long time. I think it came out in 2023 sometime last year, maybe towards the end, I'm not sure. But this is a 1.5 hour video. Let me just show you what they talk about in this thing. It is absolutely insane. So we've got over here, we've got Rilke. I think this is the poet, which I haven't looked at the poems yet. We've got philosophy, creativity recession, conspiracies, how you structure your life, creative process, thinking clearly, the church of graphs, painting, drugs, essay, curiosity, consciousness. This is brilliant stuff. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever watched in my life. And I actually have a keyboard shortcut just to be able to pull up this video URL and share it with other people. It's amazing. So the point is, this thing is an hour and 24 minutes long. It's got 1 million pieces of wisdom in there. How often can you watch this video? First of all, do you even have an hour and a half to go and watch the video in the first place? A lot of people don't. I don't have time to go and watch this thing 20 times. I don't have time to watch 30 or 20 or 50 of these a week. So look what I could do. I copy the video URL. I'm going to jump over to my shell, and then I could do this. So I can run this command, PT. This actually just pulls the transcript, pull text. It pulls the transcript, and here's what it does by itself. So that just pulled the transcript. And if you look at this thing, word count with words, I think it's like 16,000 words. Yeah, 16,468 words. That's a lot of content. Well, I want to know, this is the origin story for this first pattern I'm going to show you. The pattern is called extract wisdom. I think we might have seen it scrolling by when we were looking at the patterns earlier. So this thing, you run like this, Fabric. We're going to do streaming, we're going to do pattern, and extract wisdom. And what's cool about this is I created it so that it would emulate what I would do if I were to manually take notes. I love the idea of manually taking notes, watching slow, pausing, slow it down, go back, think about it, take some more notes. So I'm trying to emulate that process. And if a video is an hour and a half long, it's going to take at least that long to take long, detailed notes. So I wanted to emulate that with AI. And that is one of the first patterns that I created for Fabric. So check this out. It is now pulling the content again. It is now sending it into Fabric. And watch what it does. Gives me a summary first. Okay? Pretty cool intro sentence here. Ideas. The West is perceived as dying due to a culture that celebrates mediocrity and suppresses individual greatness. Rilke's poetry. Look at this. This is gold here. Absolute gold. Then it goes into not just the ideas, which are the most important, but then it goes into quotes. And this could have come from either side of the conversation, anybody who is participating in the conversation. Then it goes into their habits. What types of things do they do? Because I'm looking for opportunities to improve my life, going back to the first thing we talked about. So if I find out that I run this against 100 different things, and I find out that they all wake up and get sun in their eyes, which probably I got from running Extract Wisdom on a Huberman video. But anyway, if those add up enough, then they become something that I would update my routine with. Then it goes into facts. So these are like third-party verifiable facts that maybe I didn't know about, but they just happen to mention and I find interesting. Then look at this, references. References, right? So this is where I found out about this poetry. This is where I found out about a number of things in here. In fact, another video that I did this on, my other favorite, which I also have a keyboard shortcut for, is Neri Oxman. And she mentioned Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning. And that book changed my life. And I got it because of this AI, because of Fabric being able to pull interesting references out. So anytime somebody in the conversation says, oh yeah, you read that, or you saw that piece of art or whatever, that is something that gets mentioned here. It gets extracted. Then finally, it ends up with recommendations. So that can go directly into, an update for your model of the world, or an update for an algorithm for how to do a specific thing. I actually have a very specific example for this, which is brushing your teeth at night versus in the morning. Huberman just did a brand new episode very recently on oral health. And it's one of the things that's going to update my current methodology. So back on that other slide where it's like, I have a methodology for doing a thing. I parse wisdom. I find out something new. I update. I'm now a better person as a result of that. I think that is fascinating and super interesting. So that's one. That is called Extract Wisdom. Let's look at another one. Okay, here's another example of a pattern. This one is called write essay. This is a little piece of notes. These are nothing but just like little bullets, essentially. I don't have the actual bullet next to it, but it's essentially a set of random thoughts. I wanted to write an essay about this thing, so I actually laid it out a little bit, but they're not like 100% complete sentences. It's not like a perfect essay. It's not even an essay yet. It's really just a list of sentences. But watch this. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to copy that. It's now in the clipboard. I'm going to do P, which I have aliased to PB paste. So I'm pasting out of the clipboard. And I'm going to put that into Fabric, switch SP, write essay. And look at this. And this thing specifically, the way this pattern works is it emulates the clarity and brilliance and simplicity and lack of grandiosity of Paul Graham's writing style. Now, I don't recommend that you go and create a whole bunch of essays writing like Paul Graham, because that would be kind of bad and gross. But it is a good way to like tell you how to write a good essay. And it could give you lots of ideas. But ideally, what you would want to do is create your own pattern and give it examples of your own writing. Now, if you look at the content here, okay, I wrote the notes. I know what the essay is supposed to look like. So I'm reading these passages here. Modelic learning sits at the intersection of algorithmic and osmotic learning. It involves adjusting our life's operating system, our core beliefs and assumptions about how the world works. That's exactly what it is. It's very similar to how like Paul Graham might have written this passage. Every one of these passages is like very clear. It's absolutely capturing the content of the notes. Okay. So let's take that. Let's go and let me show you something else. This is insane. So the S actually stands for streaming, which means it's returning. You saw it's scrolling across. It's actually returning the result as the AI is returning it and pushing it back to us. It's printing it on the screen. I'm going to remove that so that I can create a stitch. So here's a stitch. I'm going to send this thing to tweet. And this is actually just an alias. I've already aliased to the Fabric command. So don't worry about the fact that I didn't type Fabric. It's all still Fabric. So now I'm going to send this. It's the same stuff in the clipboard, which is the notes. I'm going to send it to write an essay, and then I'm going to send it to write a tweet about that content. And now this is going up and doing its thing. Okay, so check out this result here. Learning isn't just about the facts. It's a complex dance between understanding and application, especially in web testing. I had a thing in the notes about doing web testing. And then it gives us some bullets here, and the bullets are decorated with specific emojis. So algorithmic, modelic, and effective learners basically combine them. So that is a pretty cool tweet. And then you would just put the URL for the essay that you're going to point to or the video you're going to point to. Boom. So you got a tweet. So the most important thing here to look at is this here. Okay. This pipe symbol. Every single one of these patterns and Fabric itself is designed to be piped in and out of. So you can actually take the output of any one of these and send it to the input of any other one of them. And if you look at all the different patterns that you have, I'm going to go into the patterns directory. Look at all these. Explain code, explain documents, extract the proof of concept, extract sponsors from a video, improve a prompt. You can actually send a prompt into here and it'll give you a better prompt. Label and rate. Let's talk about that one next. So check this out. So we have the content. Okay, this is cool. So we have this essay being written, right? We have the stuff in the clipboard still. I don't think we've overwritten that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this essay output and we're going to send it to label and rate. And this, again, this is a Fabric alias. These get installed when you install Fabric. So you can actually just run label and rate, more like a regular CLI command. So now we're going to rate the quality of the essay that it wrote. So I've never done this before. We're going to see what it does. Okay, and now we have content coming back. So we got a one-sentence summary. And again, this thing is going to rate. It's going to label the content. It's also going to rate it. Okay, we got an A tier rating. So this is based on video game ratings. So it's S tier is like the absolute best. A tier means that it is something that you should consume within the month because it's really, really good. And it also gives the reasons why it's rating these things at this level. And then it actually gives us a score, a quality score. Look at this, 85 quality score. That's very, very high. So to be clear, this thing just took my notes. It wrote an essay and it rated it very high. And I have tuned this thing for a very long time. So it's pretty hard to actually get an 85. So I'm impressed that it actually wrote an essay that scores that high. Hopefully, I would like to think that it was because the ideas in the notes were actually rated that high. Okay, let's actually do something different. I didn't plan on doing this. Let's actually just take the content of the note itself. So I take this and I'm going to send that into label and rate by itself and see if it rates different than the full essay. A tier. Okay, interesting. So I got the same A tier and I got it the same. Oh, interesting. And it gave the same score. That is really fascinating. Yeah, there's another pattern I could use to actually assess prose because there's actually no really good prose in it. It's just a set of like bullets or notes, ideas for an actual essay. But really interesting that the ideas rated just as high, which you would expect that to be the case because the ideas should exist in both the notes form and the essay form. Anyway, on to the next pattern. Okay, for this next pattern, I'm actually going to show it in the version of a slide because I've actually got a screenshot here. It's pretty cool. So this is a local role-playing game that I do with a bunch of friends here in my hometown. And this is actually a real picture of one of the setups. The GM, Chad Lynch, does amazing work, obviously. And what we do is I record each session with this little microphone right here into voice memos within the Apple ecosystem. I then export that. I run AI against it to extract it. It's a Whisper that runs against it. And look what I can create with that. So this is an example. This is a great example of we're not doing AI for the sake of AI. We're doing AI to enhance human activities, okay? This is us getting together. This is a physical environment. It's us 4 or 5 people playing. We've got a real table with real miniatures on it that were painted by a real person, and we're having fun together for 3 or 4 hours every Friday. That is a vastly, incredibly, amazingly human experience. And what we're doing with AI is not trying to replace that. We're trying to enhance that. So what I'm doing is I'm recording this. Look at this over here on the left. Look, key events. It extracted all the cool stuff that we did in the session. It lays out exactly what we did in an ordered way. It actually even extracts the cool, funny stuff that we said during it. I mean, this is amazing for remembering what we've done, looking back, having memories to share with each other. It's just unbelievable. Then to make it even cooler, check this out. Previously on Crown and Mayhem, amidst the mist-shrouded peaks of Highlands, turmoil engulfed the O'Dowing. So you hear the vibe there. And that was an AI voice from 11 Labs reading this setup for the next episode. This is a thing they used to do in old TV shows. They would actually set up the current episode that's about to come on by reminding you of what happened in the last episode. So they always start with previously on. So that's exactly what we set up here. So once again, that just brings a smile to everyone's face. It's all AI, but it's extracting the meaning, the interesting part of what we've done, and it's just enhancing it. It's put a little spice on it. And this is what I love about the Fabric project. But in general, my approach to AI is to take and magnify the human elements of what we're doing in life, right? We have human problems, let's solve it with AI. We have human things that we enjoy, let's enhance them with AI, right? Let's not think about how to replace things. Let's focus human first, supported by tech, supported by AI. And that's the way we think about it. Okay, I want to talk real quick about how to install Fabric. It's pretty simple. You go to the quick start link, which is right here. You download the installer, basically the repo. You download the repo, go inside the repo. You install Poetry with this curl command. You make your setup file executable. You run the setup. It basically installs all the dependencies and everything for you. Then you run Fabric setup, and that installs your key from OpenAI. And then you can run Fabric help, and you will see this help menu here, and then you are fully installed. All right, that was a quick overview of Fabric, and we are really excited about it. We are really excited to have people go and play with it, download it, install it, play with the patterns, upload their own patterns. Can't wait to see what you do with it. And I hope this philosophy does rub off on people, that basically AI should not be considered a replacement for humanity. It is an augmentation. It is an enhancement. It is something that makes humanity better. And a lot of people won't see it that way, and they'll take it in another direction, but we don't have to accept that. And so our approach here with Fabric is to very much think human first, and we encourage you to do the same. And we can't wait to see what you do with the project. So thanks for listening, and there'll be a lot more videos coming out soon with more and more use cases, more and more patterns, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.